seen the beads they have now at the craft store at Michael's and Joann's and other places, and they're so beautiful and you just want to buy them.
But you don't know what to do with them. Well, we're going to show you how to turn them into a necklace.
All you need is some bead stringing wire, and you can get that while you're buying your beads.
You'll also need findings, and for that you need 2 jump rings, 2 clamshell bead tips, and 2 crimp beads. You'll also need a toggle clasp.
For tools, you'll need round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, and wire cutters. This set is sold right there with the beads. The first thing we're going to do is cut the beads off of this string that the beads come on. And this is really just a temporary string. It's usually something like a fishing line, or it's just not strong enough for your beads. So we're going to just cut the end of that.
It's also nice because then you can mix up the beads. You don't have to keep them how they've got them strung already.
Exactly. So I'm just going to cut, that end is a little bit curved. And I'm going to just dump the beads right into a little cup here. And I'm going to do the same thing with my other strands. I'm just going to cut right through the string that they gave me and dump those beads in.
And we just picked 3 colors that we liked together, and we liked that the beads are a little bit different in size and shape.
And altogether, these beads cost less than $10.
And you might even end up with some left over that you can use in another project.
And now we're ready to start making a necklace. So most necklaces are about 17 inches long. So we already cut a piece of the bead stringing wire. This one's 20 inches long, so we have a little bit extra on the end. And here's a little trick. We're going to put a piece of masking tape at one end. And that way when we feed the beads on, they won't slide off the other end. And now all we have to do is slide the beads on in any order. We're just going to do kind of a random order until we have about 17 inches of beads on the wire. And I'm just going to go back and forth. And it doesn't matter if the same ones are next to each other. Maybe there's a couple in a row that are the same. And this is really fun. You get like your moment of zen feeding your beads onto your wire. They look really pretty. So now we've got 17 inches of beads on our bead stringing wire. Remember, we've got the masking tape here. And now we're going to put a clasp on the end. And to do that, we have our clamshell bead tip. And it looks like a little clamshell with a little hook on the end. And there's actually a hole inside there. I'm going to feed that wire up through the hole. Then I'm going to take my crimp bead, and it's a little piece of metal that is meant to be crushed. I'm going to pick it up with my chain nose pliers and slide the wire right through the hole. And I'm going to go ahead and just crush that bead. Flattens just like that. And I slide the clam over it. It hides it and it keeps the wire from coming out the end. Now I'm going to close the clam and trim that little end of wire off. Just like that. Well, give it a second snip. I'm going to make sure that that clam is nice and closed. And it has an open hoop here. I'm going to close that hoop. And now I can take my jump ring. The jump ring is a split jump ring, which means that it's an open jump ring, It has an opening in it. So I'm going to bend it open and pushing it towards me and the other way from me. I've got a little opening there. Now I can slide that into my opening of my clamshell and slide the jump ring into the clasp. And then I'm going to use my other pair of pliers to close the jump ring. Just like that. That's one end is already done. That was pretty easy. So we'll do the other end in the exact same way. We're going to take the masking tape off. This time I'm going to make sure the beads are all the way down to that toggle clasp. So I'm just going to slide the beads all the way down to the other end to that clasp. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this end that I did on the other end. I'm going to feed the clamshell bead tip through that little hole. And I'm going to slide my crimp bead onto that wire. This time, instead of just crimping it at the end, I want to make sure all the beads are tight, pushed down to the end. So I'm going to pull that wire tight, and now I'm going to reach inside with my flat pliers, my chain nose pliers. And I'm going to reach inside there, and I'm going to crush that bead. And then I'm going to close that clam over it. I'm going to trim my wire. You can trim the wire before you close the clam, it's your choice. I'm going to close that little loop up. And just as before, I have a jump ring that I need to open. I grab it with 2 pliers, bend it open. Now I can slide it into my work, and then I have my other end of my toggle clasp, and I'm going to use the flat pliers to close that jump ring. And we have a very beautiful necklace made in a flash.